New to Amazon Prime is a movie called G20, starring Viola Davis and Antony Starr. It's their version of Die Hard, just straight to streaming. Take that for what you will. That being said, it was better than I thought it was going to be. Viola Davis plays the president in this, and Antony Starr plays Colonel Rutledge, who decides to take over the G20 summit. Basically what that means, there's this giant convention every year where all of the 20 wealthiest countries go. They hold a summit. It takes place in South Africa in this movie, and he basically takes over the summit, hostages the world leaders. It's their version of Die Hard, no way around it. Straight to the point, this movie is exactly what you think it's going to be. If you're a fan of those movies like Die Hard, Olympus Has Fallen, White House Down, you're probably going to have a good enough time with this movie. This movie plays exactly like I described it, straight to streaming version of those movies, but ironically, it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Has huge flaws, but also some good stuff. So let's start off with what I actually liked about this film. Obviously, the two leads, Viola Davis, Antony Starr, both great as always. Antony Starr particularly, he's just awesome at playing a villain, much like everybody's come to love him as Homelander. So it's kind of cool to get to see him in this role, but just like every other show he's ever been in, like Banshee, The Boys, the guy's just fantastic at playing these weird, like over-the-top, zany characters. And he steals the show in this movie, being the villain in this one. If not for him, I believe this movie would be pretty much unwatchably boring. But I like the guy, so I was entertained. Then you have Viola Davis, who's going to go on to be like the John McClane of this movie because she's going to have to get out from this summit when it is overtaken. And a lot of the time when you have an action movie with a woman in the lead role, it doesn't care at all about the boundaries of like what a woman can do physically to these men. It's kind of told to you that you can just like train somebody so much that somebody who's like 5'2", 105 pounds could get out of this and they could like beat up mercenaries. Not really the case with this movie, and I appreciated that because Viola Davis is an absolute force. Like, she's muscular, she's fierce, she can act, so I believed her in this role. The fact that she could become a badass on top of the fact she has a backstory. As for the temperament of her as a president, I didn't necessarily believe that the sitting president would act this way. Was a little bit too soft-spoken in her mannerisms for me, but fortunately they go on to explain in the second half what's actually going on, why she is the way she is, why she acts the certain way she does. So I really liked that, and I liked her dynamic as a character entirely. I found it for the most part pretty believable. And getting back to Antony Starr's character, the main villain of this, you ever find yourself watching a villain and they're kind of talking about their plans or their incentives, and you're just kind of sitting there thinking, this guy's kind of making some good points. Hold up, let him cook. That's kind of how I felt about this movie. The more the villain talked, outside of obviously these deranged extreme things he's doing, I'm not in support of that, but the actual incentive behind what he's doing outside of his own monetary gain, I thought was actually pretty believable and relatable to what's going on in the everyday world. And I was like, yeah, I kind of understand why the guy's pissed. Because in this movie, and I don't know if another movie's actually done this yet, he's not really going for like a bag of diamonds or like a suitcase full of money. It's kind of a more modernized take on that, where he's trying to just crash the overall global markets. Think relatably to like what was going on with the tariffs last week. How everybody was freaking out. But he's trying to be like a modern Robin Hood to a sense, where he's trying to crash the everyday markets and promote cryptocurrency. Because in this movie, the US itself is trying to introduce this new global cryptocurrency that they can kind of monitor. And this is being done to bolster our monetary policy because we have a failing currency. Again, pretty relatable to nowadays. And he's pairing that up with spreading misinformation via deep fakes and just faking videos of these politicians, which again would be pretty believable nowadays because nobody really fact checks anything. I see blatant misinformation all over the place. I don't think it would be very hard to actually manipulate the market if you could manufacture a crash and get the everyday person to just be pissed at all of these people who didn't actually say or do any of this stuff. If you could actually manufacture a crash in all of the global markets, you get ahead of that, you short the currencies, you would make astronomically more than any one-time hit, like a bank job or stealing diamonds. So this movie on the grand scale, like I think they go on to say this guy would have been up like $150 billion. I thought it was just a really cool setup. And while that's going on in the conference room, you obviously still have Viola Davis and her head of Secret Service hidden behind enemy lines in the summit. It's just like a group of 4 or 5 of them. They're snaking around the summit. They're picking people off one by one, making allies. I like that type of movie. I'm a sucker for it. By no means is this the best version of it, but if you like that setup of a film, again, I think this one is entertaining enough. But now for my negatives, and there are some glaring negatives. For some reason, this movie decides to inject the angsty teen stereotype into this movie, where you just have a kid in this movie who's annoying for the sake of being a teenager. To me, that's an overdone trope. Annoying as hell in this movie has absolutely no purpose. And there's also a brother in this movie who's a brother to that annoying teen. Absolutely no reason for this guy to exist. Why was this guy in the movie? And I also thought the setup of this movie was really weak. When you get into the summit, I think it's enjoyable enough. Turn your brain off, have some action fun. But the setup of this movie was really lazy and generic. I was almost checking out. If I wasn't here for the two leads, I probably would have checked out. They're just consistent in using these absolutely terribly CGI'd like drone shots where it zooms out of the summit and it shows these buildings. There's a really bad one right at the start of the movie when they show a plane flying, which is Air Force One. It's just so cartoony. The CGI looks like it's basically made on my computer. Much like a lot of these Die Hard clones as well, the henchmen in this movie, absolute cartoons. These people who work under Antony Starr, these people do not seem to care whatsoever about the severity of this situation. These people will walk right up to the main characters who are holding ARs pointed at them and just say corny catchphrases and keep walking. Like, the main characters can just look at them and blow them away at any point. They just don't, because that's the type of movie it is. And these henchmen seemingly know that. Again, very cartoony. Whenever you have a character in life or death situation and they don't care, I check out a little bit. None of the action in this movie is something you haven't seen before too. This is a very recycled formula. The entire movie, the action, you've seen it all 100 times, but it's effective enough for a stupid popcorn flick. This movie in the very end also tries to go for an emotional angle attached to that angsty teen thing going on earlier, and you just do not care at all because that character was stupid and that entire plot line was pointless. You also have main characters, or should I say semi-main characters, that have really catastrophic things happen to them, and they just kind of forget to explain any of it by the end of the movie. But this is definitely a movie that overstays its welcome in my opinion, but for a while I was actually having a really good time with this. By the end of the movie, I wanted it at the end because it just felt like it kept going and going. But with that being said, still, I'm completely baffled by the reviews on this one. It has a pretty low IMDb score, a lot of 1-star ratings. I don't agree with that at all. I watch a lot of these shitty stream adaptations. This is one of the better ones if you just want a sloppy action film that you can just watch up, turn your brain off. You like that Die Hard, Olympus Has Fallen formula. You know exactly what you're getting with this movie. I thought it was an above average streaming movie. Absolutely nothing I would watch again, but for the most part, I think it's good exactly where it is, on streaming. If anyone checked out G20, comment down below, let me know what you thought, or let me know what your favorite Die Hard spinoff is. As always, subscribe, join me down below, like the video, it all helps. I will see you in the next review. Peace!